Before listen, lock your door.
Subscribe for daily horror story.
First story.
My cousin once told me, if you see something hanging from a tree and it doesn't swing with the wind, don't go near it. It might not be hanging. It might be waiting. I thought he meant poachers. I wish he had. I was 3 days into a solo hunting trip near Grandfather Mountain. I had my stand deep in a bowl of old-growth woods, miles from the nearest road. I liked it that way, less noise, less people, more deer. The hunt was quiet. Too quiet. Actually no movement. No birds. Even the squirrels weren't stirring. It felt like the forest had taken a breath and never let it out. Then I spotted it, hanging from a poplar, maybe 15 feet off the ground, something wrapped in burlap. Not a deer, not meat, long human-shaped. I froze. My gut said it was a prank, or worse, a body. But it didn't sway in the breeze, didn't move at all, just dangled, still like it was. Holding its breath, I circled wide, didn't go near it, but later that evening, as I hunkered in my blind, I spotted another. This one was closer, hanging from a tree behind my camp. No rope, no noise, and this time, it turned just slightly. I couldn't see eyes, but I felt them. Watching, I kept the fire high that night. But sleep never came. At one point, I heard rustling above me, not around, above. When I looked up, I saw 3 more shapes, hunched in the trees, not swinging, not breathing, just holding on. At dawn, they were gone. But all around my camp, the bark was stripped off the trees. In long vertical rakes like claw marks, my cooler had been opened, not broken into opened, and the food inside laid neatly in a circle beside my tent, in the center. They left a gift, a rabbit, skinned, still warm, and on the inside of my tent flap, scratched into the nylon, was the word, still. I broke camp without packing. Didn't stop until I hit pavement. When I got home, I burned the tent, but I didn't throw out the knife I found in my gear that I don't remember packing. It wasn't mine. It had no blade, just a thin piece of bone, sharpened to a point, wrapped in hair. Next time you see something hanging in the trees that doesn't sway, walk away. You're not alone out there, and they only come down when it's time to choose.
Second story.
My dad used to say, if you see a tree with no bark, don't sit near it. That's not a tree anymore, it's bait. I didn't believe him, thought it was just backwoods superstition. Until last November, I was out solo, hunting late season in the Chattahoochee section of the Appalachian foothills. Just me, my rifle, and the cold. The kind of cold that tightens behind your eyes. I still had 1 deer tag left. I hiked deeper than usual, past the usual stands and trails into a section that had been left alone since a fire line swept through 20 years back. That's where I saw it. A tree, or something shaped like one, tall, thin, smooth, no bark, not stripped by fire or disease, just clean bone white, like it had grown that way. It had no branches until about 10 feet up. Then they split outward in strange angles. Too long, too even. Stood alone, dead center, in a patch of pine. No tracks, no saplings nearby, just silence. I should have turned around, but I didn't. I set up about 40 yards away, crouched behind a downed pine, scope aimed downhill. But the longer I stayed, the more I felt. Watched, not like a buck was nearby. More like the woods had gone quiet to listen. I kept glancing at the pale tree. Every time, it seemed just a bit closer. I blinked once, and it was only 20 yards away. That's when I stood, didn't grab my gear, just moved back slowly, and saw the hole at its base. A low, oval opening. Not a knot, not rot. A hole, just wide enough for a person to crawl into. And inside something moved. I heard breathing, shallow, wet, strained, like lungs that had never learned how to breathe right. Then a hand emerged, long, crooked, pale, like the trunk, Fingers bent the wrong way, like broken sticks. It gripped the inside rim slow, deliberate. That's when I ran down the ridge, through briars. I didn't care what direction. I didn't stop until I hit a game trail near the lower creek bed. Camped there. Built a fire. Sat up all night. Didn't sleep. When I returned the next morning with my buddy Nate, the pale tree was gone. Just gone. No hole in the earth. No trail. No snapped twigs. Just a circular patch of flattened pine needles where it had stood, and in the center was my hat, folded, clean, dry, placed. Like someone had gently set it there. I haven't gone near that ridge since, but last week, a different friend came back from a scouting trip and asked me something strange. He said, "Hey, you ever see a tree out there with no bark? Next time you spot a tree that doesn't belong, don't get close. The woods have ways of hiding things that aren't supposed to move, and when they do move, they remember who saw them first."
Third story.
My grandfather warned me once, if you spot a buck that doesn't blink, don't shoot, and for God's sake, don't run. It's not the deer you need to worry about, it's what's wearing its head. I laughed when I was a kid. Now I keep a round chambered any time I hear antlers scrape against bark. It was the last week of deer season. I was camped alone on a remote ridge in the Smokies. The cold had settled in, ground like stone, sky like slate. The kind of quiet that makes your own breath sound too loud. Around an hour before sundown, I spotted movement down the slope. A buck. Big. Broad. The rack looked unnatural. Maybe 13 points, maybe more. But it wasn't the size that caught me. It was the stillness. It stood perfectly still. Didn't twitch an ear. Didn't sniff. The air didn't blink. Just stared. I raised my scope. That's when I realized it wasn't breathing. I stayed crouched behind a spruce for at least 5 minutes. It never moved. Then a branch snapped behind me. I spun around. Nothing there. But when I looked back, the buck was gone. No hoofbeats. No trail, no sound. Then I saw it again, not the deer but antlers, peeking from behind a tree farther downhill. Only they were pointing the wrong direction. Sticking outward, not up, like someone was wearing the antlers. I kept my rifle raised and began backing away. That's when it stepped into view. Not a deer too tall, too thin. A thing humanoid, wearing the head of a buck like a mask. Antlers stretched out wide like branches. Fur draped down its back like a cape. And behind the black eye holes, fingers moved. Delicate, twisting, curious. It didn't charge, didn't speak. It just turned its masked head slowly toward me and began walking sideways across the slope, silent, never blinking, never breaking eye contact. I stayed frozen until it disappeared into the trees. I didn't sleep that night, or the week after. When I finally told my grandfather what I saw, he didn't flinch. He just asked, "Did it leave you something?" And that chilled me more than the thing itself. Because yes, it had. Tied neatly to the zipper of my tent flap, the next morning a single hoof. Still warm, still twitching. I don't hunt above 4,000 feet anymore. And I don't follow deer that stand too still. Next time you see a buck that doesn't blink, leave it alone. You're not tracking prey, you're being invited.
Fourth story.
My uncle used to say, if the elk calls before sunrise, don't move. Elk don't make sound in the dark hand. What's calling isn't looking to be found. It's looking to find you. I didn't understand that until my third hunting season alone. I'd been tracking a herd for 2 days, deep in Jefferson National Forest. It was late October, right before peak rut. Nights cold enough that your breath curled white and heavy, hanging like fog above the leaves. I'd hiked in further than usual, no trails, just deer paths, instinct, and the hope of silence. I'd scouted a narrow ridge overlooking a shallow valley, perfect funnel for elk at dawn, set up behind a deadfall, settled in with a loaded rifle and every sense on edge. It was around 3:40 a.m. when I heard it. A bugle, soft, long, wrong, no rasp at the end. No bark or echo. Just a clean, gliding whistle, like someone who had heard an elk once and was trying to mimic it. I sat up slowly, didn't touch my flashlight, didn't make a sound. Then another call, closer, still too perfect, still too early. That's when a third bugle came, but it wasn't ahead of me. It came from directly behind my camp. Only a few feet away. I eased the rifle up, clicked off the safety, held my breath. The woods were quiet. Then came the footsteps, not heavy, like an elk's hooves, not light, like a fox, just footsteps, human, 2 legs, slow, deliberate. Then it bugled again, but this time the sound broke-ended in a wet, bubbling cough, like someone tried to make the sound through a mouthful of water. That's when I saw it, a figure between 2 trees, tall, too thin, arms hanging low, past the knees. No rifle, no bow, no gear. It was standing still, facing away from me, but its head was turned all the way around, watching me from the wrong side. I ran, didn't pack, didn't look back, made it to the Ranger Road just after dawn, lungs burning, boots soaked. Came back the next morning with a Ranger. Found the camp destroyed, tent shredded, but right in the middle end, touched was something I hadn't left. A fresh elk heart, still warm, laid neatly across my sleeping bag. I haven't hunted alone since, but lately, just before sunrise, I've started hearing it again, that bugle, too clean. Too early, and now too familiar. And once, when I checked the trail camera I'd set near my usual ridge, there was just one photo, a man, or something shaped like one, standing in the dark, looking away, but its reflection in the lens was smiling straight at me. Next time you hear a bull bugle before first light, don't answer. It's not hunting, it's remembering, and it already knows you moved last time.